We don't hit pan on everything, right? There's lots of makeup that we toss out before we finish using, that goes off, that we stop liking for whatever reason. And then of course there are products that you actually can't hit pan on. Hey, you're watching Alexa. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm gonna talk about all of the products that I have hit pan on. Yeah. The first product is the MAC Paint Pot in Painterly, and this took forever. It took more than 100 uses. I think it was in my Partners in Creme in 2021. Had it been a darker color, something that I would have used to fill in my brows or do any other sort of thing, I don't think that I would have been able to hit pan. Realistically speaking, I do not wear makeup every day. The next item is the Cream Blush by Becca. This is in the shade Terracotta, and it actually is one of those it's one of those bronzer blush type of shades, and those are really good for trying to hit pan on. This formula, even though all Becca cosmetics are discontinued, is malleable. I think that's why it was easier to get this much pan in. Mind you, I used this for a year. I don't remember how many uses it took to hit pan per se, and the pan did appear this large in the beginning because obviously I use a larger brush to apply cream blush. This is not the Makeup Forever HD translucent powder. It's actually maybe a little bit of that from the edges mixed in with some Rimmel translucent powder, and I kind of don't reach for this. It has a lot of kickback and it's just kind of so I'd like to see if I can use this up in a different way other than just using it for translucent powder. I'm also not as much a translucent powder lover now that I'm older. I feel like the oiliness can just be dabbed off and then without putting a layer of powder, which tends to just kind of age the skin. So maybe that's why I haven't used it as much. The next item that I have is a powder by Stila. It's a bronzer contour powder. I mean, at least that's what it is on the back, but I would consider this more like a bronzer. Honestly, it's massive. This is 15 grams worth of bronzer in here. And I have only ever used one bronzer to completion in my entire lifetime, and it was one by H&M of all places. So I don't know, I'm not the biggest bronzer person either. My next product is the Nars Blush in Madly, and this is sadly discontinued. It is such a good neutral blush. Again, it's one of those, is it a bronzer? Is it a blush? Put it all over the face, and the way that light bounces off my face when I wear this and how it looks, it just chef's kiss. It's such a beautiful product. The only thing I can't stand about Nars, I mean, granted, I only have old Nars stuff. A lot of times the mirror part tends to break off on one end, and then of course there's the really sticky packaging that is just quite unfortunate. The rest of the items are eyeshadows. So the first eyeshadow I have is from the Naked 3 palette, and it is the shade Burnout. This took about 45 uses. I've hit pan on a few Urban Decay eyeshadow palettes, particularly from the Naked line, and the shimmery shades typically take about 45 uses if you're using a fluffy brush. Any fluffy dome-shaped brush that you pop all over the lid for a light wash of color and or use to diffuse the crease or apply a diffusing color to the crease is going to reap better results for panning these eyeshadows, or reaching pan. That's just been the fastest for me. Did the same with the Naked 2 shade Suspect, which it's actually kind of difficult to see the pan, so hopefully in the close-up you can tell that there is little pan there. Same kind of brush, same story, about 45 uses. However, I think if you are more heavy-handed with eyeshadows, it might be a different story for you. Next, I have another one by Urban Decay. This is the Naked Cherry, and I hit pan on the shade Bang Bang, which is right here. And because this is a chunkier shimmer, I want to say, This took less uses. I think it was somewhere, it must have been like 32 or 35. It was close to 40, between 30 and 40. I don't remember exactly. For the matte finish ones, I have no idea. Let me know in the comments down below if you know how many uses it takes to hit pan on one of those matte shades from Urban Decay. When I was doing pan those eyeshadows in 2021, this shadow was the bane of my existence. I mean, it took over 70 uses to get pan on the shade Sassy in the, what's this? The TheBalm Nudetutde palette. And I wasn't just using it on my eyes, I was using it as a highlight for the tops of my cheeks. So it says this is a total of 11.08 grams. So divide it by the amount of shadows, you do the math, it's hard to pan this guy. Laura Mercier used to release these palettes and then they got exponentially expensive. So I didn't end up getting the third version, but this is the second one that they released, I believe. And it's all mauves and like neutral browns on the bottom. Honestly, it's such a nice palette. I hit pan on the shade African Violet. There's a lot of kickback with that shade. Glitter, and it's a really nice topper shade, but you really gotta pack it on. So I don't know how many uses it would take to hit pan on this, because as soon as I rolled it in, it was already the most used, like the most dented eyeshadow in this palette that I had. Whenever I think of pan that palette, I immediately think of this palette. Have a guess. Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette, which everyone and their mama had. That is a shade that I hit pan on, so there it is in all its glory. I don't remember how many uses. It was something I used sporadically, rolled it in a project for a while because I thought I was gonna do pan that palette. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I would never do that to myself now. Or if I did, it would just be to just kind of laugh at how I wouldn't finish the palette in a year. There's no way. I would have to dedicate so much time because, again, I don't wear makeup every single day. If I did, maybe it would be a different story, but I would get tired of it for sure. Funny enough, this palette is back in my pan those eyeshadows this year. This is the Maybelline Total Temptations. It's got one side of kind of peachy and brown shades, and then you got mauves. And I hit pan on the brown down here. Now it's kind of tricky, but for this kind of an eyeshadow where there's this ripple effect on it, you really gotta focus your brush just on one spot, and then basically one of the grooves of the ripple. I don't remember how many uses it took, but I think it took quite a few, honestly, because it's quite firmly packed, although they're really kind of creamy and finely milled considering it's drugstore, right? I should probably look it up because I'm currently trying to hit pan on this one right here. This was a bonus pan that I hit in 2022. It was out of this Covergirl Quad, Notice Me Nudes, and I hit pan on this brown shade right here. It's a little bit difficult to see because there isn't actually a pan per se, it's just the plastic packaging. But this quad has been so handy. This and the, oh my gosh, remember the Maybelline quads that used to have those really shimmery shades in them that kind of looked similar to this? I forget what they were called. Oh, these are so handy. They're really practical. When you are traveling or you're taking an overnight bag and you want to do your makeup, you don't want to compromise on the look, but you do want something that you don't care if it falls and breaks or if you lose it. These are where it's at because they're inexpensive and you don't have to lug around your larger palettes. You just have a little quad or two and you're ready to go. Speaking of handy quads, this one from Revlon, which is called Metropolitan, I got this shade down here, which I used as a topper. Again, it's a little bit difficult to see the pan itself because it's just the black plastic. There's not actually like a little metal pan, no pan itself. This must have taken a dozen uses, and I think it was in my 2021 pan those eyeshadows. Not a fan of the configuration of this palette, but the shades are actually nice, the colors are practical, and the glittery shade was easier to use than I expected. I have a palette by Pixi called Natural Beauty, and I hit pan on this shade right here called Cocoa Shimmer. It's a really small pan. I think this took 25 to 30 uses, something like that. And at the time I was also panning a palette by Wet n Wild, which is a dupe for the Modern Renaissance, which is coming up soon. And I would mix this brown with some of the reds and I would get purple, and it was just, it's nice. Mix your browns and reds, make nice purple eyeshadow. Next, I've hit pan on 2 different shades, one in each of these palettes by Rimmel. These are the Color Edition and the Spice Edition. I hit pan on this mauve-y, deep brown, maroon-ish type shade. I don't know why 43 is the number that's popping in my head, but I'm gonna say 45 uses. The nude shade right here, which was very practical and everyday use. I like having one of these neutral shades in my pan those eyeshadows. I know some people think they're boring, but they are practical. This again also took about 42 to 45 uses, and maybe a little bit less because I was able to splash this all over the place. I have a random Smashbox single that I hit pan on. This wasn't in a project or anything, and I've had this for quite a long time. I think that that is a testament to how good this eyeshadow was, but it's just such a practical shade, and had it been in a project or something like that, I could have used it for multiple things, like as a bronzer, crease shade, lid shade, what have you. Let's save the best for last. And if you've been following me for a while, then you know what this is. You've seen it in a ton of my videos. It is the Wet n Wild Rosé in the Air palette, and I hit pan on every shade except the top 2 shades and the brown right here. This was in a New Decade project pan, which was started by Becca. She did this project where she started with all brand new items, tried to hit pan on them, and she basically rolled over all the products and then added a new batch of products in. Meanwhile, my amateur panning butt. If you liked this video, be sure to check out the next one that I have linked on the screen, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!